Prognosis, prognosis, prognosis.
Hey, I mentioned I would try and get back into it. This is a kind of quick tidbits and tips exploration of the patching capabilities of the Dreadbox Erebus analog synth module. Had a lot of fun doing this. These are fairly simplistic patches. Control pitch, your filter modulation, the waveform, setting up some loops and stuff. Anyway, had a lot of fun doing it. As I say in the video, I don't have a lot of experience actually working with real patch cables. Most of my early synthesizers would let you program some modulation, but with matrices or something like that to change values. Again, a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. And here it is. Sit back, relax. Okay, we have talked about in other reviews how we wanted to sit down with the Erebus and do some experimentation with the patch panel. And now we're going to do it. This is a quick little tidbits and tips. We will work on, well, do demonstrations of 4 different patches. Fairly simplistic, nothing too involved, but it gives you an idea for how the patching works. And as I've said in previous reviews, I'm no expert on this either, so it's a little bit of experimentation on my part and exploration for all. First patch, fairly simplistic. It is just mod wheel control of the vibrato. So let's start from scratch. Let's take these guys out. And yes, as I've mentioned before, the Erebus does come with 4 little patch cables, which is nice. Mod out right here goes into the LFO depth in. LFO-D stands for depth. The other one goes from LFO out to the CVN. The CVN controls the pitch of both oscillators. That's important to know. You'll notice up here there's, if I plugged it into here, oscillator 2, it would only control the pitch of oscillator 2. If I plugged it into oscillator 1, it would only control the pitch of oscillator 1. So LFO out into CV controls the pitch of both. So, sounds like this. Now this depth dial right here controls how much of a signal is passed to the LFO depth. So, well, actually controls how much of a signal is passed to the mod wheel. It's additive, so depth plus the mod wheel amount controls how much of the LFO depth here plus the LFO depth already dialed in. Did that make sense? We are just using one oscillator right now. Heavy resonance, saw wave, filtered a bit. Naturally you can control the speed of this. And the depth. But the cool thing is, of course, while you're playing live, if you're playing live, you can control it with the mod wheel. And for those of you not familiar with the Roland, they frequently have the combination mod wheel, pitch wheel. So up and down is for the mod wheel, side to side is for the pitch, positive and negative, which I kind of like actually. What else? We can switch this to square wave. You can change this. You can actually get fairly extreme. Let's crank this up a bit. Crank that up as well. Depth is more, rate is more. with a simple modification of that, sorry, I'm drinking a beer too. I don't know if you can see that. With a simple modification of that, we can take the LFO out and move it to the voltage controlled filter. And you will get something like this. Let's go back. Let's try some two-voice paraphonic. Oh, I guess I need the other oscillator on though, don't I? Okay, so again, you can tell here that the LFO previously was affecting the pitch through the controlled voltage. Now it's affecting the filter. And again, we can change the depth here with this little thing. And crank up the speed or the rate. Okay, so that's patch 1 for the most part. Patch 2 is modifying the oscillator pitch with an envelope. Fairly simplistic, but kind of interesting anyway. So the envelope, maybe I've had too much beer. The envelope out goes to the CVN. This is kind of simplistic. Hey, what was that? Depth, again, controls how much of an effect it has. The depth can affect the envelope and the mod, as you can see on the diagram here. And as I crank up the depth, the effect is more pronounced. Let's open the filter a little bit. Okay, so now the envelope controls exactly how the pitch is varied, either very quickly or slowly. Maybe that's a little too much. Let's bring that down a little bit. And we can create the kind of the ray gun effect from the 70s, many really bad science fiction movies. And again, that is the pitch going really high and then dropping, because the pitch is being controlled by the envelope. Okay, patch 3. I went ahead and jumped ahead and got it set up for you. It is the mod out to the LFO in depth, or LFO depth in. It is the envelope to the LFO rate, and it is the, last but not least, the LFO out to the CV, which would be kind of the pitch control for both oscillators. Now, interestingly, what this does is the envelope controls the rate of the LFO. So depending on how the envelope is set, the LFO can start slowly and then speed up and then slow down again, or it can start really fast and then slow down. So let's see where we're at right now. And of course the mod wheel is controlling this effect. down the depth of the envelope. So you can hear the rate is starting really quickly, and then as it slows down to the sustain amount, now we can make it speed up very slowly. Interesting. So let's try a square wave on the LFO. Let's bring down the amount a little bit on the envelope. Okay, interesting. Okay, finally, we're going to do patch number 4. This is a little interesting here. If we go ahead and plug the LFO into the gate and set the LFO to a square or pulse wave, it lets you retrigger the envelope based on the input from the LFO pulse wave. And there it is. It also lets you control the speed because the mod is plugged into the LFO rate. So if we do the mod wheel, basically what I'm doing is controlling the shape of this cycling ADSR. It has a fast attack right now and a fast decay. Change it to a slower attack and a slower decay. Okay, right now we have a lot of resonance. So we can change the rate. And basically what this lets you do is control actually sort of an LFO shape. 8 cycles. And again, all this is controlled by the pulse width, or the square wave triggering a gate event, which then launches the envelope. So, even though there is only a square and a triangle LFO, if you patch it like the last example, then you can actually sculpt this kind of LFO effect. So anyway, that's the short and sweet. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I have finished off most of my beer, and it's a little bit of a learning exercise. Again, tidbits and tips for patching on the Erebus analog synthesizer. Cheers.